If you're drawn to real-life mysteries, dark secrets, and stories that keep you up at night, you're in the right place. We uncover the chilling truths behind the world's most disturbing crimes. No faces, no fluff, just facts, fear, and unforgettable twists. Like what you hear? Smash the like button. Want more gripping stories? Hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a single case, turn on notifications and stay ahead of the truth. This isn't just crime. This is the dark side of human nature, exposed. Emily Reyes wasn't careless. If anything, she was obsessive when it came to her safety. Friends used to joke that she triple-checked the locks like she lived in a crime novel. Her bedroom window was sealed with a second latch from Home Depot. She kept pepper spray on her keychain and didn't go anywhere without texting her roommate first. She was 19, a second-year psychology major at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. Bright, empathetic, always smiling in photos, Emily was the kind of person who made people feel safe around her. And yet, on April 7, 2021, she made one decision that contradicted everything she believed about safety. She let a stranger into her building. That morning started off like any other. Emily had a sociology class at 9:30 a.m. and a lab due by midnight. She texted her roommate, Kayla, around 8 a.m., "Don't forget your umbrella. It's pouring." It was the last completely normal text she would ever send. By 9:15 a.m., Emily was seen leaving her apartment unit, apartment 206, in a gray hoodie and leggings. She had earbuds in and a canvas bag slung over one shoulder. Surveillance footage from her building's lobby shows her pressing the elevator button, waiting, and looking behind her. And that's when it happened. A man walks in. Early 30s, wearing a baseball cap and holding two paper grocery bags. He hesitates near the entrance. Then he gestures, and Emily, visibly unsure, walks over and opens the door for him. She had broken her golden rule. No strangers. No exceptions. What happened next was eerily ordinary. They entered together. Emily takes the elevator. The man doesn't. He turns left down the hallway and disappears from frame. At 9:19 a.m., Emily is seen again, entering her apartment. No forced entry. No struggle. No screams. Just silence. And that's the last time anyone saw her. By 9:25 a.m., her phone stops sending location pings. She doesn't show up for class. She doesn't check in for her afternoon shift at the campus bookstore. She doesn't answer texts. Nothing. Kayla returns home that evening to find the door locked, the lights on, and Emily's shoes by the door, just one pair missing, her Nike trainers. The pepper spray? Still on the kitchen counter. The first red flag came when she opened the fridge. The yogurt Emily had said she'd eat for lunch was still sealed. Emily's backpack was by the bed but her phone was gone. The next day, after the police were called, her phone was remotely accessed via her cloud account. There was one draft message. It had never been sent. It was timestamped 9:24 a.m., less than 5 minutes after she was seen walking back into her apartment. It read, "He seemed nice. Just that. Nothing else." The next day, after the police were called, her phone was remotely accessed via her cloud account. There was one draft message. It had never been sent. It was timestamped 9:24 a.m., less than 5 minutes after she was seen walking back into her apartment. It read, "He seemed nice. Just that. Nothing else." The search for Emily Reyes would soon consume Asheville. The man with the groceries? Not a registered tenant. No visitor log entry. No clear footage of him ever leaving the building. He appeared once. And then, like Emily, vanished. Investigators initially suspected a runaway scenario. But friends pushed back hard. Emily didn't have a secret boyfriend. She wasn't depressed. She had just booked a spring break flight home to see her sister. This wasn't a girl trying to escape her life. This was a girl who let someone inside. The next day, after the police were called, her phone was remotely accessed via her cloud account. There was one draft message. It had never been sent. It was timestamped 9:24 a.m., less than 5 minutes after she was seen walking back into her apartment. It read, "He seemed nice. Just that. Nothing else." And from that moment, her story became a riddle written in caution tape and unanswered calls. In a world where we're taught to be cautious, to trust our instincts, and to never open the door for a stranger, Emily Reyes did. And it may have cost her everything. When Asheville PD reviewed the surveillance footage from April 7, there was one detail no one could ignore: the man Emily Reyes let inside was carrying groceries. 2 brown paper bags. One under each arm. Like he'd just returned from a typical run to the nearby Harris Teeter. That one detail, those bags, gave everyone a false sense of normalcy. He looked like someone's neighbor, Officer Jared Daniels would later say. Not a threat. Just another guy hauling groceries. But when detectives canvassed the area, something strange happened. Not a single grocery store in a 3-mile radius had security footage of this man that morning. No checkout footage. No card transaction. No receipt. Nothing. He never bought those groceries. So where did the bags come from? 4 days into the investigation, a grocery bag was found in a dumpster behind a vacant unit in Emily's apartment complex. It was soaked with rainwater but otherwise intact. And that's when things got even more confusing. The bag had a logo, but it wasn't from any Asheville grocery chain. It was branded Morrison & Blake, a boutique organic market based in Winston-Salem, nearly 2 hours away. Detectives immediately requested footage from that store, and sure enough, a man matching the same general build and clothing had been spotted entering on April 5, 2 days before Emily vanished. He didn't buy anything. He walked through the aisles, touched a few avocados, glanced at the security camera, and walked out. Investigators now had a bigger problem. This wasn't a man running errands. This was a man staging a prop. One tenant in Emily's building, a 7th-floor resident named Marcus Vell, told police he saw the same man earlier that morning, pacing in the hallway near the mailroom. But here's the catch. He wasn't carrying anything when I saw him, Marcus said. Just standing there, like he was waiting for someone. I thought he looked lost. That means he picked up the bag somewhere between 7:45 a.m. and 9:15 a.m. When they checked the building's trash chute room, officers found 2 additional grocery bags, folded neatly. One of them had traces of powdered sugar and cinnamon. The other? Empty, but lined with a faint residue of what turned out to be chalk dust. Chalk. As in, art chalk, the kind used for street murals. The forensic lab confirmed it. So now the question changed from, what was he carrying, to, what was he trying to look like he was carrying? Then came the first major setback. The building's weekend security guard, a 19-year-old part-time student named Jackson Lee, told detectives he remembered buzzing in a guy with groceries around 9:10 a.m. Yeah, he said he forgot his key fob and his girlfriend was upstairs. I remember the bags. But Jackson's shift didn't start until noon that day. He wasn't even in the building. He had confused a memory from the weekend before. The investigators had just wasted 16 hours trying to confirm an alibi that didn't exist. It wouldn't be the last time a misremembered detail cost them valuable time. By the end of the week, a working theory emerged. The man Emily let in wasn't random, he was prepared. He didn't just show up and hope someone would open the door. He dressed the part. He studied the routines. He created an illusion, a harmless man running errands. One detective referred to him as a camouflaged predator. He didn't break into Emily's life. He blended into it. And the worst part? He knew just enough about the building to make it all look normal. The groceries were never real. The man wasn't supposed to be there. And the girl who always followed the rules had unknowingly walked into a carefully staged lie. One that had no checkout receipt, but a terrifying price. Kayla Ortiz hadn't stopped blaming herself. She was Emily's roommate, best friend since sophomore year, and the last person to see her alive. What she remembered didn't come all at once, it surfaced in waves. But by the time she realized what she'd overlooked, the apartment already felt haunted. And not by ghosts. By silence. Emily had been unusually distracted the week before she vanished. Not anxious, not scared, just off. She'd zone out during dinner. She skipped 2 consecutive shifts at work. She left half-finished coffee mugs around the apartment like she'd start something and never circle back. Kayla chalked it up to final stress, until she remembered the voicemail. Someone called her late, like, past midnight, Kayla told detectives. She let it go to voicemail. Then she just stared at her phone. Kayla couldn't recall the number. And when police subpoenaed Emily's call log, they discovered the voicemail had been deleted. Only one other call had come from that number. 7 months earlier. What Kayla didn't know was that Emily hadn't just listened to the voicemail. She'd recorded part of it on her laptop. A search of Emily's room revealed a password-protected folder on her MacBook. After a day of digital forensics, police cracked it. Inside was a single audio file titled, Reminder.mp3. The file was 12 seconds long. Hey, Em. I know you blocked me. But it's still me. I'm still here. I still remember your green bike. I still remember the way you smiled when we crossed that damn creek. No name. No threats. Just memory. And yet the effect was chilling. Detectives theorized this wasn't a stalker, not in the traditional sense. This was someone from Emily's past. Someone who remembered details too small to be fabricated. As Kayla retraced the days leading up to April 7th, she remembered something else: Emily's journal. She had this little lavender notebook she wrote in when she was overwhelmed, she said. I noticed it was missing from her nightstand. Police found every other item Emily owned: phone, keys, backpack, except that one thing. The purple journal. Emily hadn't brought it with her. But she also hadn't left it behind. It had vanished. One line Kayla recalled Emily whispering in passing made more sense in hindsight. They were watching a true crime documentary. A killer in the story had stalked his victim for years before attacking. Emily had muttered, "Didn't you used to know a Cameron?" Kayla brushed it off at the time. But now, that memory came roaring back. Cameron who? The name didn't match any of Emily's current friends, nor her social media contacts. But after a week of digging, Kayla remembered someone. A Cameron Stiles. A neighbor they briefly knew in middle school. Lived 2 doors down from Emily in Winston-Salem. Always quiet. Homeschooled. Moved away suddenly in 2014 after a fire at his house. Kayla even remembered his face: pale, narrow, quiet. She'd never seen him again. But when a sketch artist worked with Kayla to describe the man in the hallway the morning Emily disappeared, the resemblance was unmistakable. As detectives unraveled Emily's digital footprint, they found a series of subtle edits in her social media bios, scrubbed mentions of her hometown, deleted childhood photos, carefully edited captions. She was trying to disappear from someone's memory before that someone reappeared in hers. And Kayla? She'd seen the signs, but she hadn't recognized them in time. She didn't hear him come back into their lives. But somewhere, between the voicemail, the missing journal, and the name no one had spoken in years, the man from Emily's past had already found his way in. And now, Kayla wasn't sure if she'd ever truly been alone in that apartment at all. At exactly 10:17 a.m. on April 7th, the security camera above the third-floor hallway of the Oak Ridge Apartments blinked off for 6 minutes. When it came back online at 10:23 a.m., Emily Reyes was no longer in the building. No one saw her leave. No one heard a scream. And yet, she was gone. Just like that. And so began the unraveling of what detectives would later call the missing 6 minutes. At first, property management blamed a software update. The hallway camera system, MotionView XT, was known to autopatch around that time of day. The update log showed a standard firmware cycle at 10:15, scheduled weeks in advance. But something didn't add up. Only one camera failed during the update. Only one feed dropped out. The one outside Emily's apartment. The others? Fully operational. Someone had isolated that feed. Even stranger, the system's internal logs had a gap. The metadata for the hallway camera skipped 6 full minutes. No booting. No buffering. No reconnecting handshake with the network. Just, last event, 10 hours 17 minutes and 4 seconds. Then, next event, 10 hours 23 minutes and 10 seconds. When investigators brought in a digital forensic consultant, they confirmed the truth. This wasn't a crash. This was manual interference. Someone had scrubbed the feed clean, from inside the system. Then came the chilling email. 3 days after Emily disappeared, a message was sent to the tip line from a burner Proton Mail account. Check the hallway sound. You'll hear a knock at 10:18. She answers it. But no one ever logs entry. The address traced to a public Wi-Fi hotspot near an abandoned strip mall 2 towns over. Detectives pulled the audio layer from the system. Though the hallway camera had no video, its microphone still recorded. And yes, at exactly 10 hours 18 minutes and 12 seconds, someone knocked. 2 soft taps. Then silence. Then the unmistakable creak of Emily's door opening. Then, nothing. The building had key fob entry at the main entrance and elevator access logs per unit. No one but Emily used her fob between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. No visitors. No packages. No repairmen. Whoever knocked, didn't sign in. Didn't ring the intercom. Didn't use a key. He came in some other way. And left without a trace. When they ran the stairwell footage from floors 2 and 4, no one suspicious was seen exiting. So how did someone bypass 3 layers of entry to reach her door? And vanish? At 10:24 a.m., just 1 minute after the camera came back online, an older woman from Unit 3B walked past the hallway on her way to the elevator. She mentioned a black nylon duffel bag leaning against the wall, halfway between her door and Emily's. She didn't think much of it at the time. But by the time detectives canvassed the building that afternoon, the bag was gone. Emily didn't own a black nylon duffel. And building staff confirmed, no one reported one missing. Just like the journal. Another object appeared. Then vanished. Like it had been planted. Or used. Or both. Then came the tip from a college student across the street. He had a doorbell camera facing the parking lot, across from the east stairwell exit of Oak Ridge Apartments. And around 10:25 a.m., his camera caught something. A man. Average height. Gray hoodie. Carrying a black duffel. He exited the stairwell with his head down. Walked briskly past the lot. Crossed out of frame in 12 seconds. The timestamp? 10:25 and 38 seconds a.m. Only 2 minutes after Emily's door creaked open on the hallway mic. Only 1 minute after the hallway camera came back online. He had never entered the building through the front. There was no digital trace of his arrival. And by the time they found that clip, it was already too late. The man who walked away from the stairwell that morning didn't just erase 6 minutes from a camera feed. He may have erased a person from existence. And somehow, Emily Reyes never came back out. At exactly 8:53 p.m. on the night Emily Reyes vanished, the surveillance camera overlooking the mailroom of Westbrook Apartments captured a fleeting, pixelated image. It was a man, late 20s, medium build, wearing a gray hoodie with the hood pulled tight over his head. He didn't check the mail. He didn't stop. He simply passed through the camera's narrow field of vision, and disappeared behind the stairwell. At first, no one paid attention to the footage. The timestamp matched the window during which Emily was last seen, but the video quality was poor, grainy, low light, too distorted to confirm anything definitive. It was only after Emily's phone was recovered days later, face down in a drainage ditch 2 blocks away, that investigators began reviewing every frame more seriously. The man in the gray hoodie had something Emily didn't, a direction. At 8:47 p.m., Emily held the apartment lobby door open for someone, a man carrying 2 plastic grocery bags. In the original footage, this man appeared calm, perhaps even neighborly. The timestamp on that video placed him entering the building just 5 minutes before the gray-hooded figure emerged in the stairwell's blind spot. Now, investigators had a question: were these 2 men the same person? The man with the groceries was never seen leaving. Apartment building access records revealed no keycard swipe from Emily's unit that night. But further data pulled from the building's internal server noted an unusual surge in elevator use around 8:51 p.m. A user had called the elevator to the 4th floor, Emily's floor, and sent it to the lobby, only for it to return empty moments later. Theories swirled: had Emily been coerced into taking the stairs? Was the man with the groceries never a resident to begin with? What unnerved the detectives most was what they found in Emily's browser history. Just days before her disappearance, she had searched the phrase, "How to tell if someone is following you." No one in her family knew of any threats. No restraining orders. No complaints filed with campus police. But Emily's best friend, Zara, shared something chilling. Emily had once mentioned a man who always wore the same gray hoodie and never seemed to get mail. Zara thought it was just paranoia. A week after the footage surfaced, the building's maintenance worker came forward with something strange. On the 5th floor, directly above Emily's apartment, a vacant unit had recently been reported to have trash left inside, despite no one officially renting it. Inside were used food containers, a mattress, and a gray hoodie stuffed into the back of a kitchen cabinet. The hoodie was bagged for evidence. Forensics were inconclusive: no clear DNA, no fingerprints. The landlord claimed the unit had been listed online for sublet but never formally rented. In short, someone was squatting there. Now a new theory emerged, one darker than anyone was prepared to admit. What if the man didn't just happen upon Emily that night? What if he'd been watching her for weeks, from just one floor above? The groceries might have been a prop. The elevator, a diversion. The hoodie, a disguise. And Emily, friendly, trusting, unaware, may have fallen victim to a plan carefully orchestrated long before April 7th. With no official suspect and a single blurry frame to work from, the case teetered on the edge of cold. But then, during a digital sweep of building Wi-Fi logs, a suspicious device ID popped up, one that had connected to the building's free guest network almost every night, for over 3 months. It was time to trace the signal. When police reviewed Emily Reyes' apartment building Wi-Fi logs, they weren't expecting much, maybe confirmation of Emily's devices, perhaps a glimpse into her last online activity. What they found, however, was something far more sinister. There was an unfamiliar device. No name, no registration, just a MAC address and a cryptic device ID, E8-92, FB, D9-3C01. It first connected to the guest Wi-Fi on January 4th, a full 3 months before Emily's disappearance. Since then, it had logged in nearly every single night, typically between 12:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. And the IP logs showed it never accessed social media, YouTube, or any major websites. It pinged one thing, and one thing only: a secure, encrypted server in Germany. To investigators, this wasn't just digital noise. It was surveillance. The tech team dubbed it the Wi-Fi ghost. And unlike any normal device, it seemed engineered to stay hidden. It spoofed its location, rotated identifiers, and only connected during off-peak hours when maintenance logs wouldn't flag new devices. But here was the twist. The signal strength, measured over months, always peaked strongest near apartment 5B. The same abandoned unit where the gray hoodie had been discovered. Investigators now had a lead that connected digital presence to physical proximity. A specialist from the FBI's cyber division was brought in, and she confirmed the signal's exact strength and triangulation. Whoever used this device had been inside Westbrook Apartments at least 49 times, sometimes staying for hours. But this was no simple hacker. This person had disabled location tracking, obscured device logs, and even modified the way the device accessed DNS queries. This was someone with experience, or training. And when they traced the encrypted server in Germany, they hit a wall. The server was part of a Tor exit node. Meaning, whoever was behind it didn't want to be found. As the investigation deepened, the question became less about who and more about why. Why stalk Emily Reyes? She wasn't famous. She didn't have enemies. She lived a quiet life, no strange exes, no feuds, no involvement in anything controversial. But then, during a visit to her parents' home, detectives found a letter tucked inside a novel on her childhood bookshelf. It was unsigned. It read, "I've watched the way you laugh at night, the way you lean out your window. You'll never hear me coming. But I'll be the last thing you'll see." The Reyes family didn't recognize the handwriting. And Emily had never mentioned it. But a forensic handwriting analyst compared the style of the letter to a set of anonymous campus complaints submitted months prior, each one describing female students being followed, but never signed, never resolved. The strokes matched. More terrifying still, the ink used in the letter contained trace particles of a rare type of metallic dye, one most commonly found in thermal printers used in industrial shipping facilities. The only warehouse in the area that used that specific ink was located 1.8 miles away from Emily's apartment. And one of the employees listed there? A former maintenance subcontractor who had once worked at Westbrook Apartments. Police secured a warrant. When they searched the man's locker at the warehouse, they found 3 phones, burner phones, prepaid and wiped clean. On one of them was a single saved Wi-Fi SSID, Westbrook_guest. Now they had a match. The MAC address from the Wi-Fi logs? It was identical. But just when it seemed they had their suspect, the story veered sharply. That night, as officers prepared to bring the man in for questioning, he disappeared. Vanished from his job. Never came home. Security footage at his apartment complex showed his car pulling out at 2:47 a.m., but no one saw him again. His car was later found abandoned at the edge of a wooded area 3 towns over. Inside it was one item, a burned gray hoodie, still smoldering. They had found the ghost. But the ghost had vanished. And Emily? She was still nowhere to be found. Emily Reyes had always been the cautious type, meticulous to the point of obsession. She double-checked her front door, slept with pepper spray near her bed, and had a "no strangers" policy that was practically scripture among her circle of friends. But in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, something changed. Her landlord, Mr. Holbrook, remembered her coming into the leasing office on March 15, 3 weeks before she vanished, asking if it was possible to change the locks. Again. The first time she'd done it was in late January, after a man had been reportedly loitering outside her complex. This time, she didn't provide an explanation. She looked tired. Distracted. Her eyes darted toward the windows, as if she was afraid someone might see her there. According to Holbrook, she was unusually quiet, almost scared. He thought she was overreacting, maybe even being a little paranoid. But policy was policy. She paid the fee. The locks were changed. Again. When police accessed Emily's laptop, they found several tabs left open. 2 were especially chilling. Can a landlord track when you come and go? How to know if someone's watching your apartment? She had also bookmarked a blog post titled, "When Women Don't Feel Safe in Their Own Home." The last entry she read before her browser history went dark was a Reddit thread. "Why do I feel like someone has a copy of my keys?" These searches weren't from the day she vanished, they dated back to March. And they suggested one terrifying thing: Emily had been afraid for weeks. Emily lived on the 2nd floor of her complex. According to her roommate Bree, Emily had confided in her about hearing noises outside their window at odd hours, rustling, murmuring, the sound of gravel crunching under deliberate footsteps. At first, Bree dismissed it. They were surrounded by woods and student housing, noise was normal. But on March 22, Emily sent a text that now feels bone-chilling. "It's him again. I'm sure of it. He's out there. He knows I changed the locks. When Bree asked who he was, Emily didn't respond. She had deleted the conversation by the next morning. When detectives cross-referenced Emily's class attendance, food delivery logs, and security camera entries into the building, they noticed something disturbing. Someone always seemed to show up minutes after she got home. Multiple times, the front entrance security cam caught a man, always wearing a gray hoodie, always looking down, entering the building 3 to 4 minutes after Emily had swiped her key card. He never went to the leasing office. He never signed in. He was also never caught leaving. What's worse? It wasn't always the same day. There was no clear pattern, except that it only happened when Emily was alone. Detectives started calling him the Tail. But who was he? No one in the complex recognized him. He wasn't in the tenant registry. And his face was always obscured by shadows, sunglasses, or turned away just enough to evade identification. After changing her locks the second time, Emily had told a friend during a phone call that she planned to get a chain bolt for the inside of her door. "I don't trust that a lock is enough anymore," she'd said. That bolt was never installed. But something else caught the investigators' attention. In the toolbox near her bed, police found a spare key, not the spare Emily had given her roommate. This one looked different. Older. The make and serial were from a batch that hadn't been issued since the building was first built in 2006. No one knew where it came from. Emily never mentioned it. It didn't match her current lock. But it had been hidden in a sock inside a pencil case at the back of her closet. Clearly, she didn't want anyone to find it. Why was she holding on to an old key that didn't fit her current door? Unless, she suspected someone had a copy of her original lock. After her disappearance, more stories began to emerge. A student in apartment 1F reported hearing pacing above her at night, like someone was walking back and forth, for hours. The unit directly above hers? Emily's. Another tenant recalled seeing a man in a hoodie standing outside the laundry room at 3 a.m., saying nothing. Just standing there. When she asked if he needed help, he stared at her, turned around, and walked into the stairwell. The building had no cameras inside the stairwells. But when the footage was reviewed from outside exits, no footage showed him ever leaving. Emily's actions made it clear, she was anticipating something. She felt watched. Followed. Unsafe. She changed her locks. She hid a key. She started carrying her phone to the bathroom, even at home. And yet, in the end, it wasn't enough. Who was the man she let inside on April 7th? Was he the same person who had followed her before? Had he waited, patiently, through all her precautions, until the moment she finally let her guard down? The apartment was locked from the inside when police arrived. No signs of forced entry. No signs of escape. Only her phone, left behind on the bathroom sink, still unlocked. It started as a rumor, a quiet word from a maintenance worker who thought he heard something strange during a routine check in Emily's apartment. A mechanical hum. A faint, high-pitched whine. Something electronic. Something hidden. The Reyes family, now granted full access to Emily's off-campus unit weeks after her disappearance, began combing through her belongings. Everything had been boxed up by police. The rooms felt like museum exhibits, untouched, preserved, almost sacred. But on the second full day of sorting, her older brother, Marco, sat down in Emily's chair at her desk, and heard a faint click beneath him. The seat cushion had shifted. Inside the chair's fabric lining, stitched shut with a near-invisible thread, was a small rectangular object, wrapped in black duct tape. He almost missed it. But once he cut it free and peeled back the tape, his hands started to shake. It was a USB flash drive. The police had already seized Emily's laptop, her school-issued tablet, her backup hard drive. But this drive? It hadn't been mentioned in any digital inventory. Her cloud accounts showed no trace of recent uploads. Whatever was on this USB, it had been kept intentionally separate. When the family turned it over to authorities, the digital forensics team took 72 hours to decrypt its contents. It wasn't password protected, but it did contain encrypted folders. Inside were 43 files. The file names were chilling. APR02_followed.mp4. APR04_laundryroom.mov. grayhoodie_windowcapture.jpg. April6_message_edited.txt. Emily had been filming. She'd been tracking someone. The videos were short, grainy, clearly taken on a phone or her laptop camera, always with the lens only slightly peeking out from a backpack or drawer. The first few seemed innocent, glances over her shoulder, her phone camera catching a man in a gray hoodie entering the laundry room seconds after she did. Another captured the sound of knocks, 3 short raps, on her door at precisely 2:37 a.m. But one video stood out. Taken the day before she vanished. It showed her sitting at her desk, staring directly into the camera. She whispered. I don't know who he is, but I think he has a key. Law enforcement theorized that the USB was Emily's way of documenting harassment, maybe even stalking. But it raised more questions than it answered. Why hadn't she shared the footage with police earlier? Why hadn't she confided in her parents or roommate? And why had she gone so far as to hide the drive instead of backing it up? There was one folder titled, Not Yet. Inside it was a single note. He said it's not time. But I'm saving this anyway. They ran digital traces, looked at the metadata of the files. Most were recorded within the previous 10 days, suggesting an escalation. But the encryption was custom. Someone had helped her set this up. Someone who understood computers. Surveillance. Obfuscation. The investigators wanted to know. Was Emily being followed, or was she planning something of her own? On day 5 of the USB analysis, something unprecedented happened. An analyst working alone on the digital contents left the drive idle for 13 minutes. When he returned to the workstation, a script had executed from inside the USB, a self-deletion program buried in the folder labeled, Not Yet. All files within it were permanently wiped. No backup, no recovery. And the screen displayed a single message in white type. You looked too early. News of the USB leak didn't stay contained. It leaked. First to a small subreddit, then across TikTok and YouTube. Theories emerged. Stalker with access to her building. An inside job by someone she trusted. A secret online persona she maintained. A deeper operation she stumbled into. But the question echoed louder than ever. Was this USB drive a breadcrumb trail Emily left behind? Or a trap she was forced to set? No one knew. But one thing was now certain. Emily didn't just disappear. She was trying to be found. Somewhere between surveillance and silence, between normalcy and nightmare, lies the single detail that keeps families awake long after hope is gone, a final sighting. It's never loud. Never clear. And often, it's heartbreakingly mundane. For Emily Reyes, the last confirmed image of her was neither dramatic nor frightened. It wasn't at a train station. It wasn't captured by a panicked crowd. It was in the chrome interior of her apartment elevator. Smiling. The timestamp read 2:03 a.m., April 7th, less than 90 minutes before her roommate noticed she wasn't in bed. The building's CCTV had been reviewed countless times, but on the 9th round of frame-by-frame analysis, a detective caught a blink-and-miss moment, the subtle change in Emily's expression. The camera didn't have audio. But her body language suggested something had just been said. She looked to her right, raised her eyebrows slightly, and then, smiled. A small, involuntary, soft kind of smile. Not a posed one. Not fear. Something more nuanced. She wasn't alone. The troubling part? The second person, if there was one, never appeared on camera. Elevator footage only showed Emily from the corner where the lens caught a 3/4 view. The space to her right was out of frame. But the reflective chrome panel on the wall gave a warped glimpse of another shape, tall, dark-jacketed, possibly male. Digital analysts attempted to clarify the image, but the result was inconclusive. No facial features. Just a silhouette. A presence. And something else. The elevator stopped briefly at floor 3, even though Emily lived on floor 6. No one exited. No one entered. Except someone must have pressed that button. When the footage was shown to Emily's family, her mother wept, not from fear, but recognition. That's how she smiled when she was trying to keep the mood light, Mrs. Reyes said. That's her don't freak out smile. In hindsight, it was chilling. Because now investigators believed Emily wasn't smiling at someone. She was smiling for them. The working theory became this. Emily had seen something off. But she didn't want the person near her to know that she was afraid. So she smiled. Security logs revealed that a temporary access code had been issued to Emily's unit 3 days before her disappearance. This was common practice, used for grocery deliveries, maintenance workers, or visiting students. But Emily had never requested that code. And the IP address that created the access link? It was traced back to a VPN server in Detroit, hundreds of miles away from the Reyes apartment in Chicago. No one could explain why someone from Detroit would generate a code for Emily's door. And no one could explain how they had the authority to do it, unless they had access to the building's internal system. Or to Emily's personal login credentials. As the team re-reviewed camera footage, they discovered Emily had crossed paths with the same man at least 3 times in the days prior. April 2nd, a man in a gray hoodie holds the lobby door open for her at 9:41 p.m. She thanks him but doesn't make eye contact. April 5th, she steps out of her unit. The hallway camera captures her startled reaction. Someone had just turned the corner. She turns back and re-enters. April 6th, elevator mirror reflection shows a blurry figure standing behind her, too close for comfort. Emily shifts her weight, subtly recoils. Each time, she appears calm. But body language doesn't lie. In the bottom of her gym bag, tucked behind a water bottle and an old receipt, police found a crumpled yellow sticky note. It had only 4 words. He knows the code. No name. No context. No explanation. The note wasn't dated. It hadn't been shared. But paired with the unauthorized access log and the reflection in the elevator mirror, a chilling narrative was beginning to form. Someone knew how to enter. Someone had watched her long enough to know her patterns. And someone, possibly that night, was standing beside her in that elevator. Right before she disappeared. Emily's floor. The last time her phone pinged a tower. The last time she was on camera. The elevator arrived. The doors opened. No one got off. Not on camera, anyway. And when they opened her unit days later, the door was locked from the inside. The silence inside Emily Reyes' apartment was deafening. Detectives had visited the space before, but this time, they weren't just walking through, they were combing through her life. A week had passed since her disappearance. The public thought she was just another college girl who trusted the wrong person. But investigators now believed something far more methodical was unfolding. Her roommate, Sarah, had insisted Emily barely used paper calendars. She relied on Google Calendar and her phone's reminder app. But pinned to the corkboard above Emily's desk was a neat, physical calendar with red ink circled around 5 dates in April. Those dates aligned with something terrifying. The day she changed her locks. The day she bought a self-defense keychain. The day she met with campus security. The day she filed an anonymous report. And April 7th, the day she vanished. An anonymous report no one read. Investigators dug through the campus security logs and found something that no one had noticed earlier. A handwritten, anonymous report filed by a female student. The handwriting matched Emily's journals. The report detailed someone posing as a rideshare driver, circling student housing units, offering to walk girls home at night. Emily had tried to warn them. But the report had been placed in a drawer. Unread. Unprocessed. When detectives examined her apartment more thoroughly, something felt off. It wasn't the usual signs of a struggle. There was no mess, no broken items, no blood. But it was too clean. Her shoes were placed perfectly. Her desk was aligned. Even her trash had been emptied. And yet her last online order, a pair of pepper spray canisters, still sat unopened in the mailbox. Her browser history was wiped after 8:12 p.m., the same time her roommate left for class. The apartment was staged, not to hide a struggle, but to appear like nothing had happened at all. An overlooked detail in her planner. On the back of the calendar was a sticky note. My schedule isn't random. Start from the 3rd. It wasn't addressed to anyone. But when detectives backtracked her locations, they realized Emily had been following someone, or something. April 3rd, campus library. April 4th, gym building C, where the rideshare man was last seen. April 5th, police station, she never entered. April 6th, the elevator where she smiled at someone off camera. April 7th, her disappearance. Emily wasn't being followed. She was the one following. A break in the case, too late? The hidden USB from earlier chapters contained encrypted files. But in her planner was a seemingly random 12-digit number that the tech team finally used to unlock the USB's contents. Inside were screenshots, email threads, one video file. The screenshots included purchase receipts, rideshare license applications, and fake IDs, all linked to a man named Javier Klein, a 34-year-old former security guard with a revoked license in 3 states. The video? A shaky clip from her phone camera, secretly recorded, of her walking past a man in a gray hoodie and muttering, "He's still watching me." The final twist, April 12th. That last date circled on her calendar? April 12th. The day Emily Reyes reappeared. But she didn't walk into her dorm. She didn't call the police. She didn't show up at her parents' house. She walked into a bank. And withdrew every cent from her student account. Security footage showed her entering alone. Smiling. Wearing a gray hoodie. And just like that, she was gone again. Emily Reyes wasn't just running from someone, she might have been running toward something. But what? She let him in with a smile, and vanished before sunrise. No forced entry. No cry for help. Just silence, and a calendar filled with secrets no one saw coming. Drop your theory in the comments below. Was it the roommate? The fake rideshare? Or the man in the gray hoodie? Was it someone she knew, or someone who knew her too well? The door was locked. But the truth? Still wide open. What do you think happened to Emily Reyes? Please subscribe and like for more real-life mysteries, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss what we will uncover next. Thank you.